Lumix S5. The best way I could think to do a test with this is to inject it into my workflow. My main cameras are the Blackmagic Pocket 6K for video and the Sony a7R III for photos. So I wanted to take the S5 and replace the Blackmagic and the Sony in two situations where I would use them and I would trust them. I know these cameras, and I just threw this camera in there. So the first shoot was a portrait photo shoot with tattoo artist Andy Faux. He has incredible work on his body, and we went down to Chinatown here in New York to do like a grungy photo shoot. I set the camera to the ambient background and then used the umbrella flash to fill in him and give it like a nice pop. You know, normally in a situation I'd be shooting with my Sony. The Sony's advantage maybe is that it's 42 megapixels. I do a lot of magazine work though, and 8.5 by 11 full page is 8 megapixels, and most of the time the photos aren't even taking up the full page. The other thing is this Sony has amazing dynamic range for shooting RAW. With this camera, I wasn't able to process any of the RAW images yet because Capture One and Camera Raw aren't up to the newest firmware that supports this because it's not out yet. The second production was a short video commercial for a food company. We shot on location in Charlottesville, Virginia. For our interview, it was a great setup inside this beautiful barn. Now, we were shooting with a window in the background, which is always a high dynamic range situation. This thing has full V-Log in it, which is a huge advantage. That old V-Log that was in the GH5 had that blotchy skin tone, you know, that magenta green, you know, little blocks that would happen. I didn't see any of that with this, and I pushed things far. Threw the dehaze tool on it, just really tried to break it and did not break. For the B-roll section of the shoot, we were outside and it started to rain. But this definitely looked waterproof. I didn't remember reading that it was, but it looks like the GH5, it looks sealed. So we went out there, we had the Ronin S gimbal on it, and I was shooting 60 frames a second, 10-bit, 420. 4000 ISO. 4000 is the second stage of the dual ISO in this thing at V-Log. It just came out great. Autofocus. I understand how important this is to people. To me, not so much. I use the Blackmagic, which has no autofocus, we know that. The Sony is, I use manual focus lenses a lot of the time. So, you know, I'm used to not having it. But it was a treat to have it on this when I was shooting the video shoot. I put the camera on the tripod, it locked onto her face. A few times she put her hands in front of the face, it came off, went right back on in smooth ways. Shooting the B-roll out in the field, I had a leaf right in front of the camera. I wanted to reveal the leaf into her, and it did a smooth transition. I definitely see an improvement from the GH5. I think it's gonna take people that really dive deep into autofocus to test it. You know, the self-shooter, vlogger style people. But I have to say, it was an improvement, and that's what I know a lot of people are looking for that. So the third project I did was a fashion photo shoot. I had a great team working with me on this, and the camera performed amazingly. We were shooting out on the streets of Chelsea in New York. Autofocus-wise, with the photo shoot, you know, it has the facial recognition. At one point we were shooting in front of a graffitied wall. The camera could not see her in focus. It was really dark. You could barely see with your eyes. You know, the street lights weren't on in that area. And I feel like that's something the Sony would have the same issue with. I have no qualms about that shoot or the way this camera performed. It really just did a great job. The last way that I really tested the camera was as a tourist, as a daily shooter, as someone who just carries a camera on them and loves to just capture things around them. We were on vacation up in Vermont, and the sky was amazing. No moon, I was able to shoot the Milky Way, set this thing to 8000 ISO, and it was great. You may be laughing at me, I don't shoot a lot of stars. I live in New York City, we don't see stars that often. The other thing is this new feature called Live View Composite. It's basically a long exposure using the live view, and it only seems to change a higher luminance value so that the shadows don't keep getting noisier and noisier and build up, and maybe the light pollution gets in the way. Somebody's gonna do something amazing with this. There's amazing people out there that take something like that and create killer art. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. We're in a great time right now for cameras. All the companies are innovating, they're competing with each other, they're pushing the boundaries, and we're the ones that get to benefit from that. I think Panasonic had a good move with making this camera. The fact that it's full frame is a huge plus for me. The quality of the video and photo is on par with what any professional needs, but also covers what an amateur would need. It's light and easy to use. I'm not somebody that is going to not tear something apart that I think isn't up to par, and this thing really is up to par. It competes with both of my cameras. I didn't feel like I was missing either one of them when I was using this. So I tried to cover in this review as broad of a spectrum of use as I could in my own workflow, in what I would see in other ways to use this camera, and I hope that it's something that was helpful to you guys. Again, I don't have that many negative things to say about this camera. It's gonna be a great camera, and I think a lot of people are gonna benefit from it. Please let me know down below what you thought. Give me some comments, some feedback, ask me questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm gonna do a few more tests comparing dynamic range to the Blackmagic and then the raw photos to this once I get raw working on this. But yeah, I had a great time using this thing. I wanna thank Panasonic again for sending me a loaner camera to check out, and thanks for watching.